No-code is one of the best things that happen to tech entrepreneurship, and the most obvious takeaway is pretty clear. We can build, launch, and even scale products without having to code. But what if you're not quite there yet? What if you just want a simple side hustle going just using no-code? Is that possible too? Let's tap into this incredibly popular movement and community and explore the options. I'll show you 5 ways you can create a side hustle in the no-code space. The first and probably the most obvious method is creating and selling templates. If you're great with designs and know web development, you can apply to become a Webflow template designer. Webflow templates are sold through Webflow's own marketplace and typically sell for somewhere between $50 and $150, and you get to keep 80% of that sale yourself. This is actually quite good, especially since this is passive in the sense that you only have to create a template once and then sell as many times as you can. If you can sell just 2 to 3 of these per day at an average price of $75, you got yourself a $5,000 per month income stream after Webflow's cut. Not bad at all. Worth pointing out that Webflow does have requirements and standards you need to meet in order to start selling. But if you already have the skills as a web developer and designer, this one should be pretty straightforward. Another way is by selling Notion templates. You might already have heard some huge success stories like Aslo and Thomas Frank, who are making a lot of money selling Notion templates. But even if you don't want to take it to that level, you can still make a decent income by setting up advanced templates for project management, data capturing, organization, finances, and much more in Notion and selling the template from your website. This one doesn't require you to apply anywhere, but you do need to cover marketing yourself. If we take a look at Aslo and Thomas Frank, you'll notice that they have huge audiences and that they're very active on social media. In the same way, you'll need to establish yourself as an authority and educate people on the specific philosophies and ideas behind your templates. Setting up something in Notion is only part of the equation. Most of the templates that sell really well are built on top of well-known models and frameworks in whatever your template is trying to help solve. Which brings us to method number 2, creating content around no-code. No-code is more than just a collection of tools. It's a movement. It's all about empowering and democratizing tech entrepreneurship for non-technical founders and creators, and there are huge communities built around this. Not to mention the many new no-code tools that constantly enter the market. The demand is massive, and this makes the market extremely attractive for new SaaS to enter. So there's an obvious opportunity here. Create a YouTube channel or podcast centered around this no-code movement. I made my first no-code related video last year when my channel had around 10,000 subscribers, and I immediately started getting a lot of offers from no-code SaaS companies who wanted to sponsor my next video. I was charging between $1,500 and $3,000 for a single sponsored mid-roll, and this was despite the fact that my channel was quite small at the time. And at the same time, I started seeing a huge spike in the RPM of my channel, reaching as high as $14 to $16. Okay, quick breakdown if you don't know what RPM is. When YouTube puts ads on your videos, they share 55% of the revenue the advertisers are paying with you, the creator. RPM stands for revenue per mil and shows how much you earn per 1,000 views on your video. But all ads aren't equal. When multiple advertisers want to put an ad on YouTube, an auction is taking place. And some topics related to some markets are simply much more competitive, which forces the advertisers into a bidding war, which in turn brings up the price for showing that particular ad. And in some very competitive niches, advertisers are bidding much more aggressively, and this shows directly on your RPM. This is why some channels make a lot of money from ad revenue, while other channels make close to nothing, even though they get the same number of views and same number of ads shown on their videos. And as it turns out, no-code is one of these markets where advertiser demand drives up the prices on both ads and sponsor deals. So, creating content in the no-code space, especially on YouTube, can become a legitimate income stream. And as you saw with my YouTube channel, you don't even have to wait that long before offers start to come in. Okay, this next one is a bit more specific, but I believe there's a great demand for this. You could create a no-code consulting business that teaches employees to become citizen developers. So here's the situation. There are a lot of companies out there that are not tech companies per se. It could be law firms, accounting companies, retail chains, healthcare providers, and so on. They're not tech companies, but they increasingly rely on technological solutions to handle internal operations, automation, managing data flows, and a lot of other things. But for these companies, hiring an actual software developer is very expensive and probably a bit overkill. So the solution many of them turn to is to find their most technical employee and turn that one into a citizen developer. And a citizen developer is a technical person who doesn't actually program. Instead, they use no-code and low-code tools to build internal applications and workflows, but without needing the full skill sets of an actual software engineer. You could create a consulting business where you offer to train a company's most technically capable employees and turn them into citizen developers. You'd be coaching them in the use of no-code tools, low-code tools, and if you have a formal training in software development, you could teach them lightweight software engineering concepts as a part of their training. Enough for them to bridge the gap between the requirements of the company they work for and the many capabilities IT and tech has to offer. So, if you're into consulting or building an agency, I think there's huge untapped potential right here. Okay, now that we're already down the agency street, let's take a look at the next one. A no-code MVP agency. Let's unpack this one. If you've been in the startup ecosystem, you probably know that there's this term that's tossed around a lot. The MVP, a minimum viable product. It's the most basic version of a product that allows founders to quickly test the market, gather feedback, yes, secure funding and get investors on board if that's the path you choose. The problem? Traditional MVP development actually often requires a fair bit of time and money. It typically also requires someone on board who can program, which can be quite a showstopper for founders without engineering experience. Building an MVP this way is actually fairly risky business, and that's typically what founders want to avoid at this stage. A common solution is to use prototypes, which are basically just sophisticated slideshows to demonstrate how a potential product could look. But there's obviously a perfect in-between, a no-code MVP. Some founders take up this challenge themselves, but there are founding teams who would rather spend time on strategy, planning and marketing, and then hire a team of software engineers once they have initial market validation and secured funding. And that's where you come in. You run an agency that specializes in developing MVPs using no-code. You set out to understand the founder's vision and truly get to the heart of what they're trying to achieve, and to translate that into a tangible, market-ready, early-stage solution. It's part consultancy, part tech development. A hybrid model that caters to the demand of the non-tech startup world. I definitely believe there's great potential in a service business like this. And finally, method number 5 is building a micro SaaS using no-code. This one is where the power of no-code truly shines. For those unfamiliar, micro SaaS is essentially a small software service that addresses a niche requirement or solves a very specific problem. It's not about serving everyone, and it's not a SaaS that's meant to scale, but rather it's about serving a very specific small audience incredibly well. Now, under normal circumstances, developing a SaaS requires a significant investment in both time and often also capital, and you typically need to have someone on the founding team with a software engineering background. But no-code platforms have changed the game. With platforms like Bubble, Whizzed, Webflow, Flutterflow, Zapier, MemberStack, Airtable, Pabbly, and many others, you can actually build fully functional apps without writing a single line of code. I have a bunch of videos on this channel, which I will link to below, that will get you started building fully functional software using these tools. There are founders who built no-code SaaS that's literally turning over millions per year. Of course, those are the big success stories, but it's possible. And even better, if you can capture a small, niche audience and solve a small but repetitive problem using no-code, you can realistically create a SaaS that generates $5,000 to $10,000 a month, which I believe is a very decent side income. So, 5 ways you can create a side income in the no-code space. Do you know any others? Please share with us in the comments. Let's all help each other out. If you got intrigued about the last one, I put together a playlist specifically for no-code SaaS development, so I would highly recommend to check that one out right now. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. I will see you soon for another video.